Joining me now is the Honorable Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, for more on this development. Thank you for joining us on the news this hour. Protesters across major cities in the country defied your request for dialogue, and they seem to have made their voice count as regards their concerns against this government. How is the federal government reacting and responding on the first day of the nationwide protest?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. We have always insisted that there was no need for this protest. Of course, that does not remove the democratic right of all Nigerians to engage in peaceful protest. But we knew from the beginning that the situation was going to be hijacked, it was going to be turned into something else. And in just 12 hours of this protest, look at what is happening. Violence in Kano, in Kaduna, in Sokoto, across the country. This is not what we bargained for. This is not protest. This is violence. And this is what the federal government had always insisted in saying, that you are right to protest, but you are not right to also engage in violence. And this is really sad for Nigeria. I think that it's important for all Nigerians to come together now, to appeal to these protesters once again, to let them see the voice of reason. They have to come to the negotiating table. We've asked them to come over. Let them come and say whatever their grievances are. It's not good when you burn cars. Where is the protest when you burn cars, you kill people, you burn down shops, you loot people's property? Where is the protest there? I think this is not protest. This is violence. We have always insisted that the president had said he was already taking most of the measures that the protesters were talking about, ensuring that Nigeria is on a path of sustainable prosperity. Look at what the government has done, especially for the young people who are out there, for the youth. For the first time, we're having unprecedented measures being taken by the federal government to ensure that the youth are engaged, the youth go to school, even for parents who are unable to pay for school fees. The federal government has instituted a students' loan board. In just a few days, about 1.2 billion had already been accessed. I mean, this is not just for payment of fees, also to put money into their pockets. So many youth, center programs have been instituted by government. There is no need for just this one. It's not right. I think our country needs to come back. We need to recover our senses, see reason with Mr. President, align with him. Elections are over. I think we need to go back to the negotiating table so that Nigeria will move forward once again.
Honorable Minister, the protesters say that these demonstrations are sparked by economic grievances, including full price hikes and the rising cost of living. You've seen their demand. There's a 12 item list of what they are asking government to do. Are there plans for an immediate relief, in this regard that will address their grievances?
The plans had already been there even before the protesters made those demands. In the first instance, look at the measures that the president had taken. I mentioned the students' loans, for example, the NEL fund. Look at the reform that the federal government has done in the area of the local government reform, for example. There was no protest. The federal government did that. Look at the negotiation that happened with labor. At the point that reports were submitted, only 62,000 was agreed upon. The federal government, the president, in his magnanimity, expanded the consultation, and we arrived at 70,000. Everybody was happy about that, even though Labour didn't get what it wanted, but there was no violence. The federal government sent it to the National Assembly. In no time, the National Assembly returned this to the president, who signed it into law only a few days ago. Look at what is happening, in the agricultural sector. So much money is being put out there. The $138 million that the federal government has put into dry season farming, for example, is taking many of the youth, especially in Jigawa, KB, Niger, Benue State, off the street. These are some of the measures that government is putting in place. And there is already 110 billion naira, provision made for youth to apply so that they can engage in some small and medium scale business.
I hear you, Honorable Minister, but I'm making specific reference to the 12-point demand of these protesters, which include reverting petrol pump price to 100 naira per litre. They're asking for a transition back to the unicameral legislation. Children of public school holders must attend public schools in the country. They're asking for total electoral reform and immediate release of NSAS protesters still in detention. Are these feasible demands, and is this government planning to address them specifically?
You know that some of these demands are not easily feasible. I mean, how do you return to 160 or whatever they are talking about, less than 200 naira a litre? What is the cost of putting 1 litre of petrol in the filling station? At the time that the fuel subsidy was removed, I mean, there were over 2 billion litres being consumed daily, I mean, monthly by this country. And, you know, the bulk of it leaving this country. By the time the fuel subsidy was removed, half of it was already taken out of, out of supply. So where was the 1 billion going? If you're spending, or you were, bringing in 2 billion litres, now you are bringing 1 billion litre, and there were no queues in the country, it means that this fuel was going somewhere. We know that there are no fuel imports in most of the countries in our neighborhood. Most of the countries around this country are not importing fuel. They are relying on this fuel that we are taking. How do you continue to subsidize other countries when you have this need to free up resources, put into infrastructure, healthcare, education, so many things that we need this money to go into. It's
Honourable Minister.
To feel that. And then, if you talk about bicameral legislation,
yes,
it's a process that was also started. It wasn't instituted by this administration. Of course, if you want that to happen, you come to the negotiating table, then this will now be taken. We institute whatever it is.
Honourable Minister, we have to go now, yes. But one of the requests from this government is an option for dialogue. Have you identified who the representatives are? And are there also actual plans to have them sit with you across the table?
This is where the problem is. Now, on the streets, when people are when cars are being burnt, people are being shot at, by the same protesters and, taking sticks and looting property. Did you see this, the leaders of these groups? Where are they? We have always said, come, let's talk to you. They don't come here. Some of them are outside this country, using social media to instigate violence in this country. This is not protest, this is violence. And that's what we are saying, that all of them need to come there. If they are available, government is ever open to discuss and dialogue with anybody. This is our country. This country belongs to all of us, protesters and non-protesters alike. We all have this country to keep. Let us tour the path that will ensure that Nigeria becomes more united, not destruction. We want them to come to the dining table if they are available. I mean, I'm happy that we are hearing voices, the Sultan and other leaders around the country calling for calm, calling for unity, calling for people to recover their senses and come back and discuss. There is nothing that dialogue cannot bring about. And this government is ever open to have that. But when there's violence, who do you discuss with? Who do you dialogue with when there is violence? I think they need to retrace their steps and come back to the path of honor and meet the government. And then, of course, I know that the president is ever ready. He's the leader of Nigeria. He's out there to make sure that Nigerians, especially the young people who are out there, get what they never got before.
Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, thank you so much for talking to us on the news tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
And coming up on TVC News at 7.